no electricity, no nothing. Every building was completely empty. Dirt floors, even no foundation.
Same.
Oh, sorry.
I'd like to call to order the Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority meeting for Wednesday, March 26th, time is 6 p.m. Madam Secretary, please note the roll.
President Thompson, Vice President Duffy,
Here.
Secretary Flores,
Here.
Director Montgomery. Here. Director Kirkland.
Here.
Item number 3, citizen communication. Do we have anyone signed up to speak tonight?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Agenda item 4, approval of minutes. Consider approval of the BCRUA meeting minutes for February 26, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I guess I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Staff reports, item 5A, consider status update regarding BCRUA capital projects. Mr. Roberts.
Still trying to figure out how to use these
The
fancy
new ones,
microphones.
yeah.
These are nice. President, directors, I believe Aaron Archer with Walker Partners is going to do us the honor tonight and give y'all a relatively brief update on the projects we have going on.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President and board members. I'm going to go through capital projects, give you the update we've done several times. I'll start with phase 2, and then we'll look at phase 1D plant expansion, which is wrapping up. We'll hit the 2 phases of delivery points, and then phase 2A water plant expansion, which we're nearing the very end of design on that project. For the phase 2 project, the calendar days on a schedule basis were about 60% through, based on a substantial completion date of February 16, 2027. On a cost basis, we're about 55% through the project. The contractors billed roughly $123 million of the $225 million contract. We still have only one change order on the contract, a relatively small change order to tie some generators that were brought out to Cedar Park's plant into the phase 2 pump station, which resulted in no time changes on the project. The contractor has been working on completing their underground work. Most recently, they completed contact grounding of the cast-in-place concrete intake tunnel. Many of you had a chance to go tour the project in the last few weeks. They are now also working on what we call point and patch, just going through that 8,800 linear foot concrete tunnel liner and patching up any holes that were part of the original form work for casting that liner. Casing installation for the pump shafts is ongoing, and we're also working with the contractor on their recovery schedule. That's been a main topic of consideration. The contractor has prepared a recovery schedule that we've been jointly reviewing with them. Made a lot of progress on that recovery schedule, are showing an on-time completion with the latest iteration of that recovery schedule, and we're meeting with them roughly on a weekly basis to go through that and look at the sequencing and the relationships of those activities. But definitely trending the right direction in terms of the recovery schedule and the details going into it, including the recovery schedule having actual recovery items in it, so working on weekends and additional work to bring the project up to speed. In the meantime, the contractor is going to continue working on the pump casings. They've got one more shaft to drill, and they roughly have about 3 more casings that need to be installed and grouted in place. We're anticipating that work will be completed around the middle of May based on the current schedule. And they're also starting to transition to prepare for the pump station building foundation work. So that's a major work plan item that they're working through with their team, and we're in conversations with them on that. The underground team is also going to start working on the final concrete work below ground, which includes the remaining concrete work for the main shaft, and then they'll transition into the suction chamber as soon as that last casing has been installed. The contractor is working as well to get restarted on the work at the maintenance building site in the village of Valente. And of course, from our construction management team, our primary emphasis right now is to continue to work and emphasize the need to bring in these recovery activities to start regaining schedule. Moving to the Phase 1D water treatment plant expansion, we issued notice to proceed in May of 2023. The current construction contract has a completion schedule that expired fall of last year, so this project continues to be behind schedule. The contractor is estimating that they will reach substantial completion roughly mid-May of this year to have that additional capacity online before we start hitting increased water demands as we approach the summer. The contract value was $17 million. We have one change order for $190,000. Invoice to date amount is roughly 83% or $14.1 million. The contractor on this project, Excel Construction, has completed all of the main structural work, including all of the basins, with most of the equipment installation complete at this time as well. The major work in front of them right now is to complete some upgrades to a few of the chemical feed systems, some minor equipment installation that they need to complete, but primarily the main effort will be going through commissioning and startup. Moving to the Phase 1 delivery point improvements project. This contract is substantially complete. The contractor has also addressed all of their punch list items. We do have a late change order where we're installing a new flow meter at the Round Rock delivery point, just because as we were taking that flow meter to reattach it to our new control panel, it's an old flow meter, had an old cable that was basically starting to deteriorate and needed to be replaced. So we've asked them to add that into their contract. They should be able to have that complete and online by April 2nd, which would bring that contract to a close. On Phase 2 of the delivery point improvements project, the contractual substantial completion date is April 4th, so coming right down the pipe here. We are tracking an anticipated substantial completion date of late May. So they are behind schedule, primarily because they have had some delays in getting their control panels tested. And so we're putting a lot of emphasis on getting that work complete. We do want all of this online prior to reaching summer. The contract amount is $612,000. We have not received a pay application at this point. I believe they'll probably just wait to the end and submit all of it at one time. So their primary emphasis as they approach mid-May is to complete the remaining installation. There's not a lot of installation left, but primarily testing and commissioning. The Phase 2A water treatment plant expansion, as you recall, is expanding the water plant from 42 MGD, which is the capacity of the plant when Phase 1D is complete, up to 67 MGD. We anticipate 100% design being complete roughly in mid-April. At that point, we have some regulatory reviews that need to be completed. We've already submitted a regulatory set to TCEQ for their review and approval. We also need to submit a set to Cedar Park for some site permitting, and then to the Texas Water Development Board for their review prior to advertising the project. We do anticipate being able to advertise the project roughly May of 2025. It can be difficult to estimate exactly when all of those agencies will have completed their reviews such that we can advertise it, but I think that's a relatively good estimate at this point. We anticipate a construction NTP around the September timeframe with a substantial completion date of May 2028. One thing I do want to note about this project is that we have been doing a lot of contractor engagement, outreach to contractors, trying to determine what kind of prospective bidders would be out there, would have interest in this project, get this on their tracking logs so that their cost estimators can start to get engaged and track the project. We have heard in the meetings with contractors right now that there's a lot of concern about getting this project done in the original schedule that we had estimated. Ideally, we had wanted to bring this project on closer to summer of 2027. Contractors right now are extremely busy. They have a lot of work going on. A lot of them across Central Texas right now have projects coming in late for various reasons. Some of it can be tied back to supply chain issues, but a lot of it just has to do with the amount of work in the area right now. And so we unanimously heard concerns about that schedule. that trying to get this online by summer of 2027 would increase price significantly without any guarantee that it actually would be delivered by that time frame. So we have been recommending to staff that we push that completion date out to May of 2028 to get it online before summer of 2028 to avoid having to pay a lot of cost escalations to accelerate that project and to avoid a scenario where we're pushing for something to get done in a time frame that realistically they just can't do for various factors involved with construction. The SWIFT funding application process is about to get pretty hot and heavy. The abridged application has been submitted to Texas Water Development Board on behalf of Leander and Round Rock. Both of those cities are currently evaluating their decision to participate, whether they want to participate, and the dollar amount that they would want to participate in. I anticipate, based on the schedule that we have seen in the past with Texas Water Development Board, that they will come to us probably the very first week of April with invitations to submit a final application for those who basically made the cut to participate. So we have been coordinating with the cities, do need to get feedback from them on whether they want to participate and at what dollar amount they want to participate in roughly in the next week or so. And then once the final application process starts, they typically give us about 30 days to go through that process, which is quite involved. It'll involve action from BCRUA board as well as the individual city councils. So we will coordinate a kickoff for that and make sure that we get synced up and are on all of the city council agendas and BCRUA board agenda to get that completed in time. Lastly, I wanted to give you an update on drought conditions. I was hoping maybe by this time we would have started to see some inflow into Lake Travis, but you can look around and see there's not been a lot of rain this winter or this spring.
Can I pause you? That's a different agenda item, so I'll just
Oh,
call that agenda item, item 5B, consider status update regarding drought conditions.
Thank you. There has not been any substantial inflows through the winter in the spring as well. Hopefully that might start changing as we approach April and May, which tend to have the highest inflows into Lake Travis. But as a reminder, when the lake does reach a level of 623, that is the trigger for us to start decommissioning the floating intake. And we had this conversation roughly about a year ago as we started looking at lake levels, and we, the engineering team has prepared a change order for the contractor to implement that work and have coordinated with the phase 2 contractor so that they could complete that work if it became necessary. But we would not intend to pull the trigger on that work until the last minute, until the lake essentially is reaching 623 feet. There may be a few small items that we would want to complete prior to reaching that level. Current lake level right now is about 636 relative to a conservation pool or normal pool elevation of 680. So we're getting awfully close to being about 50 feet low. I've put on this slide the current LCRA forecast for Lake Travis. And if you look into the future, they put different scenarios on there ranging from a continuation of extreme drought conditions to extremely wet conditions. And if you look at the dashed red line, it does show the lake in the September timeframe falling down to an elevation of about 625. Typically, once you get into that September or October timeframe, lake elevations stabilize. And so they have some other long-range forecasts that go beyond September, which show that they're not currently forecasting that the lake would go below 623 this calendar year. But these do change on a monthly basis, and so we do continue to track them, and we do receive LCRA's detailed forecast to keep an eye on that and understand when we're approaching that trigger point. Are there any questions that I can answer about any of the content on the projects or drought conditions?
Any questions? Board?
Hey, Aaron, I should know what it is, but the lake above Lake Travis, do we have any idea what condition that is as far as level?
So within the Highland Lakes, the next large storage reservoir is Lake Buchanan. And Lake Buchanan did receive some inflows last year that did not make it into Lake Travis. And LCRA's general approach is that if they receive additional water upstream in Lake Buchanan, they try to keep it there. They keep it as high as they can within their lake chain. If conditions required it, it's possible for them to pass it through to Lake Travis, but that's not part of a policy that they would say we pass water down to Lake Travis when Lake Travis hits such and such a level. They prefer to keep it higher up in the basin. So Buchanan, as a percent of capacity, is higher than Lake Travis. But LCRA really manages both of those lakes collectively as one resource, as one pool of water.
Thank you. And then the deep water intake that we're working on now is at what level?
So the deep water intake has elevations at 4 different levels, but the lowest intake can withdraw down to a lake level of about 560.
Thank you.
Any other question? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Call item 6A, consider a resolution authorizing the general manager to execute a Sourcewell cooperative interlocal participation agreement.
President, Directors, this is, I think y'all as cities have approved these types of cooperative agreements with your, within your cities probably over the years. Me personally, I've never really processed one, even in my role at Cedar Park, but I'm very happy to say that we're catching up with the times at BCRUA, that we are now starting to enter in some of these cooperative purchasing agreements, which will make the lives of the county department, Cedar Park and County Department, a lot better, because they won't have to help us. We won't have to do so many purchase orders or RFPs and things like that. So we've actually got 2 of these on here tonight. One is called Sourcewell, one is called Omnia. We did have a third one called Byboard, which I'm sure y'all are all familiar with. It's been around for a long time, but it's my understanding that the BCRUA did approve a Byboard contract many years ago, so we think that one's already in place, and if we discover it's not, we will be bringing that back. But these 2 are very similar to Byboard in that, and I'm starting with Sourcewell since these are individual items. And I can't tell you all the projects we get from Sourcewell. I do know we're working on a contract with UniFirst. It's a uniform contract, and Sourcewell, they are a member of the Sourcewell Cooperative, and so we're going to be executing that contract under those prices that are in those master agreements with Sourcewell. And likewise, I know the city of Round Rock has used Sourcewell for their UniFirst agreement. I'm not sure if you guys at Cedar Park, who y'all use it through, but anyhow, so this first one is with Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program. It's a pretty big organization, and like I said, it allows us to purchase things that have been already previously competitively bid, publicly advertised, and comply with all the state laws for purchasing, and so the agreements are already signed by them, and this resolution will authorize the execution of this agreement attached that I believe we will have for you to sign after the meeting, if it's approved.
Any questions? Okay.
So just a question. So I know there's 2 resolutions in front of us. Are we sourcing different materials from each one of these, or does one do one thing better, one do the other thing better, or they are just 2 options?
Well, I think the answer is partly yes, that Sourcewell carries a lot of products, goods, services, and products, and that Omnia doesn't carry. And all I do know is that the people that do the purchasing at the plant, the things we buy, a lot of, that Omnia has some of them, Sourcewell has others. And what initiated Sourcewell was the UniFirst, because Omni doesn't, UniFirst is not a member of Omni. And I can't tell you off the top of my And I think Omni is a little more industrial type of equipment, and that's what the leadership at the plant are going to be using Omni for. Anyway, I do know these will be very useful for us.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
And I'll second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And I'll call up 6B, don't need, unless we have any other questions, I think we'll just move forward. Consider resolution authorizing the general manager to execute an Omnia Partners interlocal participation agreement.
Motion to approve.
And I'll second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well, and motion passes. Okay, and I will call in the executive session. Item 7A, consider an executive session is authorized by 551.071 of the Government Code to consult with attorneys related to legal issues concerning the Phase 2 raw water delivery project, and consider an executive session is authorized by 551.071 of the Government Code related to consultation with the board's attorneys regarding a proposed settlement agreement for the lawsuit BCRUA versus WL Haley and Company and Jacobs Engineering Group. And time is 6:22. A call back into session. The BCRUA Utility Authority meeting and executive session action items. We have one. Consider possible action regarding a proposed settlement agreement of BCRUA versus WL Haley and Company and Jacobs Engineering Group. So what's the motion then? Guess we just call
Proposed
it
settlement.
approve. Just, I guess, I don't know formally, just like, I move to approve the proposed settlement agreement
As agreed. As presented in executive
as
session.
presented in executive session. Sounds great.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right. Director closing comments. Director Kirkland.
Thank you, all for attending tonight.
Director Montgomery. Hilda.
Good night.
Secretary Flores.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for all your work, efforts, and attention to detail. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
And thank you, and appreciate all the extra time that got us to this final decision. Good night. We're adjourned. 7:16, 17.